Shri Durga Saptashati, the Devi Mahatmyam, 700 shlokas on Shri Durga from Markandeya Purana. Chapter 1, Slaying of Madhu and Kaitabha, Meditation of Mahakali. I resort to Mahakali, who has 10 faces, 10 legs, and holds in her hand the sword, disc, mace, arrows, bow, club, spear, missile, human head, and conch, who is three-eyed, adored with ornaments on all her limbs, and luminous like a blue jewel, and whom Brahma extolled in order to destroy Madhu and Kaitabha when Vishnu was in mystic sleep. Navratri is celebrated 4 times in a year. They are Ashadha Navratri, Sharada Navratri, Mahanavratri, and Vasanta Navratri. Of these, Sharada Navratri of the month of Puratashi and Vasanta Navratri of Vasanta Kala are very important. If you refer to the Agni Purana, then it is said that Puratashi and Panguni in Tamil months, that is Ashwin and Chaitra, are like the 2 jaws of Lord Yama. If one wants to escape the mouth of Yama, then one should celebrate Navratri on these 2 occasions. A similar analogy is presented in Devi Bhagavatam. Devi Bhagavatam also talks in detail of how one should observe fast and how one should meditate work on these days. According to the legend, Durga sat on the tip of the needle for 9 days, doing a severe penance to destroy the evil Mahishasura. On the first 3 days, she meditated as herself. The next 3 days, she meditated as Mahalakshmi, and the last 3 days, she meditated as Saraswati. This signifies the progression from Tamsic to Rajasic to Sattvic and eventually obtaining liberation. The 10th day during Sharada Navratri is called Vijayadashmi to signify the victory on the day of Dashami. It is, however, a long tradition that one reads the Devi Bhagavatam or the Devi Mahatmyam, Durga Saptashati, 700 verses on Durga during this period. Devi Bhagavatam notes that Rama meditated and fasted for 9 days after Sita was kidnapped by Ravana. There are numerous such incidences on how people's wishes were granted. After reading Devi Mahatmyam during Navratri, 3 is to be done as follows. Chapter 1, Madhu and Kaitabha Samhara, is to be read on the first day. Chapter 2, 3 and 4, Mahishasura Samhara, is to be read on the second day. Chapter 5 and 6, Dhumralochana Vada, on the third day. Chapter 7, Chanda Munda Vada, on fourth day. Chapter 8, Raktabeeja Samhara, on fifth day. Chapter 9 and 10, Shumbha Nishumbha Vada, on 6th day. Chapter 11, Praise of Narayani, on 7th day. Chapter 12, Falashruti, on 8th day. Chapter 13, Blessings to Suratha and Merchant, on the 9th day. Chapter 14, Aparadha Samapana, on the 10th day. Markandeya said to his disciple Krasustuki Bhaguri, Savarni, son of Surya, is called the 8th Manu. Listen, while I describe in detail about his birth, how Sravani, illustrious son of Surya, became the lord of 8th Manvantara by the grace of Mahamaya. In the former times, there was a king named Suratha, born of Chitra dynasty, ruling over the world in the period of Swaroshika. He protected his subjects duly, like his own children. At the time, the kings who were the destroyers of Kolas became his enemies. The wielder of powerful weapons, fought a battle with the destroyers of Kolas, but was defeated by them, though they were small in force. Then he returned to his own city and ruled over his own country. Then that illustrious king was attacked by those powerful enemies. Even in his own city, the king, now bereft of strength, devoid of strength, was robbed of his treasury and army by his own powerful, vicious, and evil disposed ministers. Thereafter, deprived of his sovereignty, the king left alone on the horseback for a dense forest under the pretext of hunting. He saw there the hermitage of Medhas, the supreme among the twice born, inhabited by wild animals which were peaceful and graced by the disciples of the sage. Entertained by the sage, Suratha spent some time moving around in the hermitage of the great sage. There, then, overcome with attachment, he fell into the thought, I don't know whether the capital, which was well guarded by my ancestors and recently deserted by me, is being guarded righteously or not, by my servants of evil conduct. I don't know what enjoyments my chief elephant, heroic and always elated and now fallen into hands of my foes will get. Those who were my consort's followers and received favor, riches, and food from me now certainly pay homage to other kings. The treasure which I gathered with great care will be squandered by those constant spendthrifts who were addicted to improper expenditures. The king was continually thinking of these and others. Near the hermitage of the Brahmana, he saw a merchant and asked him, "Oh, who are you? What is the reason for your coming here? Wherefore do you appear as if afflicted with grief and depressed in mind?" Hearing the speech of the king uttered in the friendly spirit, the merchant bowed respectfully and replied to the king. The merchant said, "I am a merchant named Samadhi, born in a wealthy family. I have been outcast by my sons and wife, who are wicked through greed of wealth. My wife and sons have disappropriated my riches and made me devoid of wealth. Cast out by my trusted kinsmen, I have come to the forest grief stricken. Dwelling here, I don't know anything as regard good or bad of my sons, kinsmen, and wife. Are my sons living good or evil lives?" The king said, "Why is your mind affectionately attached to those folks who have deprived you of your wealth?" The merchant said, "This very thought has concerned me, just as you have uttered it. What can I do? My mind does not become hard. It bears deep affection to those very persons who have driven me out of their greed for wealth, abandoning love for a father and attachment to one's master and kinsman. I do not comprehend all, though I know it. O noble hearted king, how it is that the mind is prone to love even towards worthless kinsmen. On account of them, I heavily sigh and feel dejected. What can I do, since my mind has not become hard towards those unloving ones?" Markandeya said, "Then, O Brahmana, the merchant Samadhi and the noble king together approached the sage Medhas after observing the etiquette worthy of him, and as was proper, they sat down and conversed with him on some topics. The king said, "Sir, I wish to ask you on one thing. Be pleased to reply to it. Without the control of my intellect, my mind is afflicted with sorrows. Though I have lost the kingdom like an arrogant man, though I know it, I have an attachment to all the things of my kingdom. How is this, O best of sages? And this merchant has been disowned by his own children, wives, and servants, and forsaken by his own people. He is still inordinately affectionate towards them. Thus, both he and I are drawn by attachment towards objects whose defects we do know, and exceedingly unhappy. How this happens, sir, that though we are aware of it, this delusion comes. This delusion besets me as well as him, blinded as we are in respect of discrimination." The rishi said, "Sir, every being has knowledge of objects perceived by senses, and the object of these senses reaches it in various ways. Some beings are blinded by the day and others by night. Some beings have equal sight both in day and night. Human beings are certainly endowed with knowledge, but they are not the only beings to be endowed, for cattle, birds, animals, and other creatures also concise object of senses. Knowledge that men have, birds, beasts too have, and what they have, men also possess. And the rest, like eating, sleeping, is common for both of them. Look at these birds, which though they possess knowledge and are themselves distressed by hunger, are yet, because of the delusion of engaged in dropping grains into the beaks of their young ones. Human beings are, O tiger among men, attached to their children because of the greed for return help. Do you not see this? Even men are hurled into the whirlpool of attachment and pit of delusion through the power of Mahamaya, the great illusion, who makes the existence of the world possible. Marvel not at this. This Mahamaya is Yoga Nidra of Vishnu, the Lord of the world. It is by her the world is deluded. Verily, she, the Bhagavati, the Mahamaya, forcibly drawing the minds of even the wise throws them into delusion. She creates this entire universe, both moving and unmoving. It is she who, when propitious, becomes a boon giver to human beings for their final revelation. She is the supreme knowledge and the cause of final revelation and eternal. She is the cause of all bondage of transmigration and sovereign over all lords. The king said, Vulnerable sir, who is that Devi whom you call Mahamaya? How did she come into being? What is the sphere of action, O Brahmana? What constitutes her nature? What is her form? Where did she originate from? All that I wish to hear from you, O Supreme among the knowers of Brahmana. The Rishi said, She is eternal, embodied as the universe. By her, all is pervaded. Nevertheless, she incarnates in manifold ways. Hear it from me. When she manifests herself in order to complete the purpose of the Devas, she is said to be born in the world. Though she is eternal, at the end of Kalpa, when the universe was one ocean with the waters of deluge, and Lord Vishnu stretched out on Shesha Naga and took the mystic slumber, though terrible asuras, the well-known Madhu and Kaitabha, sprung into being from the dirt of Vishnu's ear, sought to slay Brahma. Brahma, the father of beings, was sitting on the lotus that came out from Vishnu's navel. Seeing these two fierce asuras and Janardana asleep and with a view for awakening Hari, Brahma, with concentrated mind, extolled Yoga Nidra dwelling in Hari's eyes. The resplendent Lord Brahma extolled the incomparable goddess of Vishnu, Yoga Nidra, the queen of cosmos, the supporter of the worlds, the cause of the sustentation and dissolution alike of the universe. Brahma said, You are Swaha and Swadha. You are verily the Vashatkara and embodiment of Swara. You are the nectar, O eternal and imperishable one. You are the embodiment of threefold mantra. You are half a mantra, though eternal. You are verily that which cannot be uttered specifically. You are Savitri and the supreme mother of Devas. By you, this universe is born. By you, this world is created. By you, it is protected. O Devi, and you always consume it at the end. O you, who are always in the form of the whole world, at the time of creation, you are of the form of the creative force. At the time of sustenance, you are the form of protective power. At the time of dissolution of the world, you are of the form of destructive power. You are the supreme knowledge as well as the great consciousness and great intelligence and contemplation, as also the great delusion, the great Devi, as also the great Asuri. You are the primordial cause of everything, being into force, the three qualities. You are the dark night of periodic dissolution. You are the great night of final dissolution and the terrible night of delusion. You are the goddess of fortune, the ruler, the modesty, intelligence characterized by knowledge, bashfulness, nourishment, contentment, tranquility, and forbearance, armed with sword, spear, club, disc, conch, bow, arrow, slings, and iron mace. You are terrible, and at the same time you are pleasing, yet you are pleasing, more peaceful than all the pleasing things and exceedingly beautiful. You are indeed the supreme Ishwari beyond the high and low. And whatever of wherever a thing exists, conscious or unconscious, real or unreal, whatever power, all that possesses is yourself. O you who are the soul of everything, how can I extol you more than this? By you, even he who creates, sustains, and devours the world is put to sleep. Who here is capable of extolling you? Who is capable of praising you who have made all of us, Vishnu, myself, and Shiva, take our embodied forms? O Devi, being lauded thus, bewitch these two asuras, Madhu and Kaitabha, with your superior powers. Let Vishnu, the master of the world, be quickly awakened from the sleep and arouse up his nature to slay these two great asuras. Rishi said, There the Devi of delusion, extolled thus by Brahma, The creator, in order to awaken Vishnu for the destruction of Madhu and Kaitabha, drew herself out from his eyes, mouth, nostrils, arms, heart, breast, and appeared in the sight of Brahma of inscrutable birth. Janardana, Lord of universe, quietened by her, rose up from his couch on the universal ocean and saw those two evils, Madhu and Kaitaba, of exceeding heroism and power, with eyes red in anger, endeavoring to devour Brahma. Thereupon, all pervading Bhagavan Vishnu got up and fought with the Asuras for 5,000 years, using his own arms and weapons, and they, frenzied with their exceedingly power and deluded by Mahamaya, exclaimed to Vishnu, "Ask for a boon from us." Bhagavan Vishnu said, "If you are satisfied with me, you must both be slain by me now. What need is there of any other boon here? My choice is this much indeed." Rishi said, "Those two Asuras, thus bewitched by Mahamaya, gazing then at the entire world turned into water, told Bhagavana, lotus-eyed one, "Slay us at the spot where earth is not flooded with water." The Rishi said, "Sing, be it so." Bhagavan Vishnu, the great builder of Koch, Pisk and Mace, took them on his leons and there cut their head with his discus. Thus she, Mahamaya herself, appeared when praised by Brahma. Here ends the first chapter, slaying of Madhu and Kaitaba of Devi Mahatmya in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 2, Slaughter of the Armies of Mahishasura. Meditation of Mahalakshmi. I resort to Mahalakshmi, destroyer of Mahishasura, who is seated on the lotus, is of complexion of coral, and who holds in her 18 hands rosary, axe, mace, arrow, thunderbolt, lotus, bow, pitcher, rod, shakti, sword, shield, conch, bell, wine cup, trident, noose, and discus, Sudarshana. Rishi said, "Of yore, when Mahishasura was the lord of Asuras and Indra was the lord of Devas, there was a war between the Devas and Asuras for a full 100 years. In that, the army of Devas was vanquished by the valorous Asuras. After conquering all the Devas, Mahishasura became the lord of heaven Indra. Then he vanquished the Devas. Then the vanquished Devas, headed by Brahma, lord of beings, went to the place where Shiva and Vishnu were. The Devas described to them in detail as it happened the story of their defeat by Mahishasura. Mahishasura himself, has assumed the jurisdiction of Surya, Indra, Agni, Vayu, Chandra, Yama, Varuna, and other devatas, thrown out from heaven by that evil-natured Mahisha. The host of devas wander on the earth like mortals. All that has been done by the enemy of devas has been related to you both, and we have sought shelter under you both. May both of you be pleased to think out the means of this destruction." Having thus heard the words of Devas, Vishnu was angry, and also Shiva, and their faces became fierce with frowns. This issued forth a great light from the face of Vishnu, who was full of intense anger, and from that of Brahma and Shiva too. From the bodies of Indra and other Devatas also sprang forth a very great light, and all this light united together. The Devas saw there a concentration of light like a mountain blazing extensively, pervading all quarters with its flames. Then that unique light produced from the bodies of all Devas, pervading the three worlds with its luster, combined into one and became a female form. By that which was Shiva's light, her face came into being. By Yama's light, her hair. By Vishnu's light, her arms. By Chandra's light, her two breasts. By Indra's light, her waist. By Varuna's light, her shanks and thighs. By Earth's light, her hips. By Brahma's light, her feet came into being. By Surya's light, her toes. By Vasu's light, her fingers. By Kubera's light, her nose. By Prajapati's light, her teeth came into being. And similarly, by Agni's light, her three eyes were formed. The light of two Sandhyas became her eyebrows. The light of Vayus, her ears. The manifestation of lights of other devatas too contributed to the being of the auspicious Devi. Then, looking at her who had come into being from the assembled lights of all devas, the immortals who were oppressed by Mahishasura experienced joy. The bearer of Pinaka, god Shiva, drawing forth a trident from his own trident, presented it to her. Vishnu, bringing forth a discus out of his own, gave it to her. Varuna gave her a conch, Agni a spear, Maruta a bow, as well as 2 quivers full of arrows. Indra, lord of Devatas, bringing forth a thunderbolt out of his own thunderbolt and a bell from that of his own elephant Airavata, gave her. Yama gave her a staff from his own staff of death, and Varuna, lord of waters, a nose. Brahma, the lord of beings, gave her a string of beads and water pot. Surya bestowed his own rays on all the pores of her skin. The Kala, time, gave a spotless sword and a shield. The milk ocean gave a pure necklace, a pair of undecaying garments, a divine crest jewel, a pair of earrings, bracelets, a brilliant half moon ornament, armlets on all arms, a pair of shining ankles, a unique necklace, and excellent rings on all fingers. Vishwakarma gave her a very brilliant axe, weapons of various forms, and also an impenetrable armor. The ocean gave her a garland of unfading lotuses for her head and another for her breast, besides a very beautiful lotus in her hand. Mountain Himavat gave her a lion to ride on and various jewels. The Lord of Wealth Kubera gave her a drinking cup ever full of wine. Shesha, the Lord of all serpents who supports the earth, gave her a serpent necklace bedecked with best jewels, honored likewise by other devas. She, Devi, gave out a loud roar with decrying laugh, and by her unending, exceedingly great, terrible roar, the entire sky was filled, and there were great reverberations. All the worlds shook, and the seas trembled. The earth quaked, and all the mountains rocked. Victory to you, exclaimed the devas in joy to her. The lion rider, the sages who bowed their bodies in devotion, extolled her. Seeing the 3 worlds agitated, the foes of devatas mobilized all their armies and rose up together with uplifted weapons. Mahishasura, exclaiming in wrath, "Ha! What is this?" He rushed to that roar, surrounded by innumerous asuras. Then he saw the Devi pervading the 3 worlds with her luster, making the earth bend with her footstep, scraping the sky with her diadem, shaking the ether worlds with the twang of bestowing, and standing there pervading all the quarters around with her 1,000 arms. Then began a battle between that Devi and enemies of the Devas, in which quarter of the sky, illuminated by the weapons and arms, hurled diversely. Mahishasura's general was a great asura named Chiksura, and Chamara, attended by forces comprising 4 parts, and other asuras fought. A great asura named Udvega with 60,000 chariots, and Mahahanu with 10 millions of chariot gave battle. Asiloman, another great asura with 15 million of chariots, and Baskala with 6 million fought in that battle. Privarita with many thousand of elephants' horses surrounded by 10 million chariots fought in that battle. An asura named Bridala fought in that battle surrounded with 500 crores of chariots, and another great asuras, 1,000 in number, surrounded with chariots, elephants, and horses, fought with the Devi in that battle. Mahishasura was surrounded in that battle with thousands of crores of horses, elephants, and chariots. Other asuras fought in the battle against the Devi with iron maces, javelins, with spears, clubs, with swords, arrows, with swords and halberds. Some hurled spears and other noses. They began to strike her with swords in order to kill her. Showing her weapons and arms, that Devi Chandika very easily cut into small pieces all those arms and weapons without any strain on her face, and with gods and sages extolling her, the Ishwari threw her weapons and arms at the bodies of asuras. And the lion also which carried the Devi, shaking its mane in rage, stalked among the host of the Asuras like a conflagration amongst the forest. The sighs which Ambika, enraged in the battle, heaved became at once her battalions by hundreds and thousands. Energized by the power of Devi, these battalions fought with axes, javelins, swords, halberds, and destroyed the Asuras. Of these battalions, some beat drums, some blew conches, others played tabors on that great martial festival. Then Devi killed hundreds of Asuras with her trident club, showers of spears, swords, and swords of spears, and threw down others who were stupefied by the noise of her bell, and binding others with her nose, she dragged them on the ground. Some were split into two by the sharp slashes of a sword, and others, smashed by the blows of her mace, lay on the ground. Some were severely hammered by the club, vomited forth blood, pierced in the breast by her trident. Some fell on the ground, pierced all over by her arrows, and resembling porcupines. Some of the enemies of Devas gave up their lives on the battlefield. Some had their arms cut off, some their necks broken, the heads of others rolled down, some others were torn asunder in the middle of their trunks, and some great asuras fell on the ground with their legs cut. Some rendered one armed, one eyed, one legged, and were again clove in twain by Devi. And others, though rendered headless, fell and rose again. The headless trunk fought with Devi with their best weapons in their hands. Some of these headless trunks danced in the battle to the rhythm of the musical instruments. The trunks of some of these other great asuras, with their swords, spears, and lances still in their hand, shouted at the Devi, "Stop, stop!" That part of the earth where the battle was fought became impassable with the asuras, elephants, horses, and chariots that had been felled. The profuse blood from the asuras, elephants, and horses flowed immediately like large rivers amidst that army of asuras. As fire consumes a huge heap of straw and wood, so did Ambika destroy that vast army of asuras in no time, and her carrier lion, thundering aloud with quivering mane, crawled about in the battlefield, appearing to search out the vital breaths from the bodies of enemies of Devas. In that battlefield, the battalions of the Devi fought in such a manner with asuras that the Devas in heaven, showering flowers, extolled them. Here ends the second chapter of Slaughter of Mahishasura armies in Devi Mahatmyam, Markandeya Purana, during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 3, Slaying of Mahishasura. The Rishi said, Then Chiksura, the great Asura general, seeing that the army being slain by the Devi, advanced in anger to fight with Ambika. That Asura rained showers of arrows on Devi in the battle. Then the Devi, easily cutting the masses of his arrows, killed his horses and their controller with her arrows. Forthwith she split his bow and lofty banner, and with her arrows pierced the body of that Asura whose bow had been cut. His bow shattered, his chariot broken, his horses killed, and his charioteer slain. The Asura, armed with sword and shield, rushed at Devi. Swiftly he hit the lion on his head with his sharp-edged sword and struck the Devi on her left arm. O king, his sword broke into pieces as it touched her arm. Thereon, his eyes turning red with anger, he grasped his pike. Then the great Asura flung at Bhadrakali, the pike blazing with luster, as if he was hurling the very sun from the skies. Seeing that the pike coming upon her, Devi hurled her pike that shattered his pike into 100 fragments, and the great Asura himself, the Mahishasura's very valiant general, have been killed. Chamara, the afflictor of Devas, mounted on an elephant, advanced. He also hurled his spear at Devi. Ambika quickly assailed it with a whoop, made it lusterless and fall on the ground. Seeing his spear broken and fallen, Chamara, full of rage, flung a spike and she split that also with her arrows. Then lion, leaping up and seating itself at the center of elephant's forehead, enraged itself in a hand-to-hand fight with that foe of the Devas. Fighting the two then came down to the earth from the back of elephant and fought very impetuously, dealing the most terrible blows at each other. Then the lion, springing up quickly to the sky and descending, severed, hit the Chamara's head with a blow from its paw. And Udagra was killed in the battle by the Devi with stones, trees, and Karala was also stricken down by her teeth, fist, and slaps. Enraged, the Devi grounded Udhata to powder with blows of a club and killed Bhaskala with dart and destroyed Tamara and Andhaka with arrows. Three-eyed Supreme Ishwari killed Ugrayasa and Ugravirya and Mahahanu also with her trident. With her sword she struck down Bidala's head from his body, dispatched both Durdhara and Durmudha to the abode of death with her arrows. As his army was thus being destroyed, Mahishasura terrified the troops of Devi with his own buffalo form. Some he laid low by a blow of his muzzle, some by stamping with his hoofs, some by the lashes of his tail, and others by the pokes of his horns. Some laid low on the face of earth by his impetuous speed, some by his billowing and wheeling movement, and others by the blast of his breath. Having laid low her army, Mahishasura rushed to slay the lion of Mahadevi. This enraged Ambika. Mahishasura, great invader, pounded the surface of the earth with his hooves in rage, tossed up the high mountains with his horns, and bellowed terribly. Crushed by the velocity of his wheeling, the earth disintegrated, and lashed by his tail, sea overflowed all around. Pierced by his swaying horns, clouds went into fragments. Cast up by the blast of his breath, mountains fell down from the skies in hundred. Seeing the great Asura swollen with rage and advancing towards her, Chandika displayed her wrath in order to slay him. She flung her nose over him and bound the great Asura. Thus bound in the great battle, quitted his buffalo form. Then he became a lion suddenly. While Ambika cut off the head of his lion form, he took the appearance of a man with sword in hand. Immediately then, Devi, with her arrows, chopped off the man together with his sword and shield. Then he became a big elephant. The elephant tugged at her lion with his trunk and roared loudly, but as he was dragging, Devi cut off his trunk with her sword. The great Asura then resumed his buffalo shape and took the three worlds with their movable and immovable objects. Enraged threat, Chandika, mother of the worlds, quaffed a divine drink again and again and laughed. Her eyes became red. And the Asura also roared, intoxicated with his strength and valor, hurled mountains against Chandika with his horns, and she, with the showers of his arrows, pulverized those mountains, hurled at her, and spoke to him in a flurried words. Color of her face accentuated with intoxication of the divine drink. The Devi said, "Roar, roar, O fool, for a moment while I drink this wine. When you will be slain by me, the Devas soon roar at this very place." The Rishi said, having exclaimed thus, she jumped and landed herself on that great Asura, pressed him on his neck with her foot, and struck him with her spear, and thereupon caught up under her foot. Mahishasura half issued forth in his real form from his own buffalo mouth, being completely overcome by valor of Devi. Fighting thus with his half revealed form, the great Asura was laid by the Devi, who often struck off his head with her great sword. Then, Crying in consternation, the whole Asura army perished, and all hosts of Devas were in exultation. With the great sages of heaven, the Devas praised the Devi, the Gandharva chiefs sang, and Apsaras danced. Here ends the third chapter called Slaying of Mahishasura of Devi Mahatmya in the Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 4. The Rishi said, when that most valiant but evil natured Mahishasura and the army of that foe of those Devas were destroyed by the Devi, Indra and a host of Devas uttered their words of praise, their necks and shoulders reverently bent, and bodies rendered beautiful horripilation and exultation to that Devi Ambika who is worthy of worship by all devas and sages and pervades this world by her power, and who is embodiment of the entire powers of all the host of devas we bow in devotion. May she grant us auspicious thing. May Chandika, whose incomparable greatness and power Bhagwan, Vishnu, Brahma, and Hara are unable to describe, bestow her mind on protecting the entire world and on destroying the fear of evil. O Devi, we bow before you, who are yourself good fortune in dwellings of the virtuous and ill fortune in those of the vicious, intelligence in the hearts of the learned, and faith in the hearts of good, and modesty in the hearts of highborn. May you protect the universe. O Devi, how can we describe your inconceivable form, or your abundant surpassing valor that destroys the asuras, or your wonderful feats displayed in the battles among all the host of gods and asuras and others? You are the origin of the world. Though you are possessed of the three gunas, you are not known to any of their attendant defects like passion. You are incomprehensible even to Vishnu, Shiva, and others. You are the resort of all. The entire world is composed of an infinitesimal portion of yourself. You are verily the supreme primordial Prakriti untransformed. O Devi, you are Swaha, at whose utterance the whole assemblage of gods attain satisfaction in all sacrifices. You are the Swadha, which gives satisfaction to the mains. Therefore, you are chanted as Swaha and Swadha and sacrifices by people. O Devi, you are Bhagavati, the supreme Vidya, which is the cause of liberation, and great inconceivable penance are the means for your realization. You, the supreme knowledge, are cultivated by sages desiring liberation, whose senses are well restrained, who are devoted to reality, and have shed all the blemishes. You are the soul of Sabda Brahman. You are the repository of very pure Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, the recital of those words very beautiful, the Udgita. You are Bhagavati, embodying the three Vedas. You are the sustenance whereby life is maintained. You are the supreme destroyer of bane of all the worlds. O Devi, you are intellect by which essence of all the scriptures is comprehended. You are Durga, the boat that takes men across difficult ocean of worldly existence devoid of attachments. You are Shri, who has invariably given her abode in the heart of Vishnu. You are indeed Gauri, who has established herself with Shiva, gently smiling, pure, resembling the full moon's orb, beautiful like splendor of excellent gold was your face. Yet it was very strange that, being swayed by anger, Mahishasura suddenly struck your face when he saw it. Far strange it is that after seeing your wrathful face, O Devi, terrible with its frowns and red in hue, like the rising moon, that Mahishasura did not forthwith give up his life. For who can live after beholding the enraged destroyer? O Devi, be propitious, you are supreme. If enraged, you forthwith destroy the Asura families for the welfare of the world. This was known the very moment when the extensive forces of Mahishasura were brought to end. You who are always bounteous, with whom you are well pleased, those fortunate ones are indeed the object of esteem in the country. Their riches, their glories, and their acts of righteousness perish not. They are indeed blessed and possessed of devoted children, servants, and wife. By your grace, O Devi, the blessed individuals does daily all righteous deeds with utmost care and thereby attains to heaven. Are you not therefore, O Devi, the bestower of reward in all the three worlds? When called to mind in a difficult pass, you remove the fear for every person. When called to mind by those in happiness, you bestow a mind still further pious. Which goddess but you, O dispeller of poverty, pain, fear, has an ever sympathetic heart for helping one? The world attains happiness by killing of these foes, and though these asuras have committed sins to keep them long in hell, let them reach heaven by meeting death eventually at that battle with me, thinking thus that you, O Devi, certainly destroy our enemies. Don't you reduce to ashes all the asuras by mere sight, but you direct your weapons against them so that even the inimical ones, purified by the missiles, may attain the higher worlds. Such is your most kindly intention towards them. If the eyes of asuras had not been put out by terrible flashes of the masses of light issuing from your sword, or by the copious luster of your spear point, it is because they saw also your face resembling the moon, giving out cool rays. O Devi, your nature is to subdue the conduct of the wicked. This is your peerless beauty, and this is your peerless beauty. Your power destroys those who have robbed the devas of their prowess, and you have thus manifested your compassion even towards enemies. What is your prowess to be compared to? Where can one find this beauty of yours, most charming yet striking? Fear in enemies, compassion in heart, and relentlessness in battle are seen. O Devi, bestower of boons, only in you in all three worlds. Though the destruction of the enemies in all these three worlds have been saved by you, having killed them in the battlefront, you have led even those host of enemies to heaven, and you have dispelled our fears from the frenzied enemies of the Deva. Salutation to you, O Devi, protect us with your spear. O Ambika, protect us with your sword. Protect us with the sound of your bell, and by the rank of your bowstring. O Chandika, guard us in the east, west, north, south by brandishing of your spear. O Ishwari, protect us and the earth with those lovely forms of yours moving about in the three worlds, as also with your excludingly terrible forms. O Ambika, protect us on every side with your sword, spear, club, and whatever other weapons your sprout like soft hands has touched. The Rishi said, thus the supporter of the worlds was praised by the Devas, worshipped with celestial flowers that blossomed in the Nandana, and with perfumes, and with the devotion all of them offered her heavenly incense. She spoke to all Devas. Devi said, choose all of you, O Devas, whatever you desire of me. Gratified immensely with these hymns, I grant it with great pleasure. The said, since our enemy, this Mahishasura, has been slain by Bhagwati, that is you, everything has been accomplished and nothing remains to be done. And if a boon is to be granted to us by you, O Maheshwari, whenever we think of you again, destroy our direct calamities. O Mother of spotless countenance, and whatever mortal shall praise you with these hymns, may you who have become gracious towards us also be for his or her increase in their wealth, spouse, and other fortunes, together with riches, prosperity, and life, O Ambika. The rishis said, O king, thus propitiated by the devas for the sake of the world and for the sake of their own, Bhadrakali said, be it so, and vanished from their side. Thus I have narrated, O king, how Devi, who desires the good of all three worlds, made her appearance of yore out of the bodies of the devas, and again how, as the benefactress of the Devas. She appeared in the form of Gauri for slaying of the wicked Asuras, as well as Shumbha and Nishumbha, and for the protection of the worlds. Listen, as I narrate it, I shall tell it to you as it happened. Here ends the fourth chapter of the Devi Mahatmyam, Markandeya Purana, during the period of Savarni, the Manu. Chapter 5, Devi's conversation with the messenger. Meditation of Mahasaraswati. I meditate on the incomparable Mahasaraswati who holds in her 8 lotus-like hands bell, trident, plough, conch, mace, discus, bow, arrow, who is effulgent like destroyer of Shumbha and other asuras, who issued forth from Parvati's body and is substratum of 3 worlds. The Rishi said, O Yor of Indra's sovereignty over the 3 worlds, and his portions of sacrifices were taken away by the Asuras, Shumbha and Nishumbha, by force of their pride and strength. The two themselves took over likewise the offices of the sun, moon, Kuber, Yama, and Varuna. They themselves excised Vayu's authority and Agni's duty. Deprived of their lordship and sovereignties, the Devas were defeated, deprived of their functions, and expelled by these 2 great asuras. All the Devas thought of invincible Devi. She had granted us boon. Whenever in calamities you think of me, that very moment I will put an end to all of your worst calamities. Thus, resolving thus, the Devatas went to Himavat, Lord of Mountains, and there extolled the Devi, who is elusive power of Vishnu. The Devas said, Salutation to the Devi, to the Mahadevi, salutation always to her who is ever auspicious, salutation to her who is primordial cause and a sustaining power. With intention we have made obeisance to her, salutation to her who is terrible, to her who is eternal, salutation to Gauri, the supporter of the universe, salutation always to her who is the form of the moon and the moonlight and happiness itself. We bow to her who is welfare. We make salutations to her who is prosperity and success. Salutations to the consort of Shiva, who is herself the good fortune as well as misfortune of kings. Salutation always to Durga, who takes one across in difficulties, who is essence, who is authority of everything, who is knowledge of discrimination, and who is blue, black, and as also smoke like in complexion. We prostrate before her who is at once most gentle and most terrible. We salute her again and again. We salute to her who is the support of the world. Salutation to the Devi, who is the form of pollution. Salutations again and again to Devi, who is in all beings called Vishnu Maya. Salutations again and again to Devi, who abides in all beings as consciousness. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of intelligence. Salutation again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings as in the form of sleep. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of hunger. Salutation again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of reflection. Salutation again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of power. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of thirst. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of forgiveness. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of genius. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of modesty. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of peace. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of faith. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of loveness. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of good fortune. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of activity. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of memory. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of compassion. Salutation again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of contentment. Salutations again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of Madhu. Salutation again and again to the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of error. Salutations again and again to the all-pervading Devi, who constantly presides over all senses of all beings. Salutations again and again to all pervading Devi who constantly presides over senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Salutations again and again to her who, pervading the entire world, abides in the form of consciousness, invoked by you, by the Devas for the sake of their desired object, and adorned by the Lord of Devas every day. May she, the Ishwari, source of all good, accomplish for us all auspicious things and put end to our calamities, and who is now again reverenced by us Devas, and who, called to mind by us, obeisant with devotion, destroys this very moment all our calamities. The Rishi said, O Prince, while the Devas were thus engaged in praises and other acts of adoration, Parvati came there to bathe in the water of Ganga. She said to the Devas, Who is praised by you here? An auspicious goddess sprung forth from her physical sheath and gave a reply. This hymn is addressed to me by the assembled Devas, set at naught by Asura Shumbha and enrooted in battle by Nishumbha, because that Ambika came out of Parvati's physical sheath Kosha. She is glorified as Kaushiki in all worlds. After she had issued forth, Parvati became dark and was called Kalika and stationed on the Mount Himalaya. Then Chanda and Munda, two servants of Shumbha and Nishumbha, saw that Ambika Kaushiki bearing a surpassingly charming form. They both told Shumbha, O king, a certain woman, most surprisingly beautiful, dwells in the shedding luster on Mount Himalaya. Such supreme beauty was never seen by anyone anywhere. A certain who that goddess is, and take possession of her, O Lord of Asuras, a gem among women of exquisitely beautiful limbs, illuminating quarters with her luster. There she is, O Lord of Daityas, you should see her. O Lord, whatever jewels, precious stones, elephants, horses, and others that are there in the three worlds, they are all yours now, all in your house. Airavata, gem among elephants, has been brought away from Indra. So is this Parijata tree and a horse, Uchchaishrava. Here stands in your courtyard the wonderful chariot yoked with swans, wonderful gems of its class. It has been brought here from Brahma, to whom it originally belonged. Here is the treasure named Mahapadma, bought from the Lord of Wealth, and the ocean gave a garland named Kinchalakini, made of unfading lotus flowers. In your house stands the gold showering umbrella of Varuna, and here is the excellent chariot that was formerly Prajapati's. O Lord, death's Shakti weapon named Utkrantida has been carried off. The nose of the ocean king is among your brother's possession. Nishumbha has every kind of gem produced in the sea. Fire also gave you two garments which are purified by fire. Thus, O Lord of Asuras, all gems have been brought by you. Why is this beautiful lady jewel not seized by you? The Rishis said, on hearing these words of Chanda and Munda, Shumbha sent the great Asura Sugriva as a messenger to Devi. He said, Go and tell her thus in my words, and do the thing in such a manner that she may quickly come to me in love. He went there where Devi was staying in a very beautiful spot on the mountain and spoke to her in a fine sweet words. The messenger said, O Devi, Shumbha, the lord of Asuras, is supreme sovereign of three worlds. Sent by him as a messenger, I have come here at your presence. Hearkening to what has been said by him, whose command is never resisted among devas and who has vanquished all the foes of asuras, he says, all the three worlds are mine and devatas are obedient to me. I shall enjoy their hairs in sacrifices separately. All the choicest gems in the three worlds are in my possession, and so is the gem of elephants Airavata, the vehicle of kings of devas carried away by me. The devatas offered me with salutations that gem of horses named Uchchaishrava, which arose at the churning of milk ocean. O beautiful lady, whatever other rare objects there existed among Devas, the Gandharvas, Nagas are now with me. We look upon you, O Devi, as the jewel of womankind in the world. You who are such, come to me, since we are enjoyers of the best objects. Take to me or to my younger brother Nishumbha of great prowess, O unsteady eyed lady, for you are in truth a jewel, wealth great and beyond compare, you will get by marrying me. Think over this in your mind and become my wife. The Rishi said. Thus told Durga, the adorable and auspicious by whom the universe is supported, then became serene and said, the Devi said, you have spoken truth. Nothing false has been uttered by you in this manner. Shumbha is indeed the sovereign of all three worlds, and likewise also Nishumbha. But in this manner, how can that which has been promised be made false? Hear what promise I had made already out of foolishness. He who conquers me in battle removes my pride and is my match at strength in the world shall be my husband. So let Shumbha come here, or Nishumbha, the great Asura, vanquishing me here, let him soon take my hand in marriage. Why delay? Messenger said, O Devi, talk not before me. Which man in the three worlds will stand before Shumbha and Nishumbha? All Devas verily cannot stand face to face with even other Asuras in the battle. Why mention you, O Devi, a single woman? Indra and all other Devas could not stand in battle against Shumbha and other demons. How will you, a woman, face them? On my word itself, you go to Shumbha and Nishumbha. Let it not be that you go and tell them with your dignity lost, but be dragged by your hair. Devi said, yes, it is. Shumbha is strong, and so is Nishumbha exceedingly heroic. What can I do since there stands my ill-considered vow taken long ago? Go back, tell the Lord of Asuras carefully all this that I have said. Let him do whatever he considers proper. Here ends the chapter 5 called Devi's conversation with the messenger of the Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni, the Manu. Chapter 6 Slaying of Dhumralochana. The Rishi said, the messenger, filled with indignation on hearing the words of Devi, returned and narrated them in detail to the king of Daityas. Then Asura monarch, enraged on hearing that report, his messenger told Dhumralochana, a chief of the Daityas, O Dhumralochana, hasten together with your army and fetch here by the force that shrew distressed when dragged by her hair, or if anyone else stand up as her saviors, let him be slain, be it a god, Yaksha, or Gandharva. The Rishi said, then the Asura Dhumralochana, commanded thus by Shumbha, went quickly accompanied by 60,000 Asuras. On seeing the Devi stationed on a snowy mountain, he asked her loud, come to the presence of Shumbha and Nishumbha. If you will not go to my lord with pleasure now, here I take you by force distressed when dragged by your hair. Devi said, you are sent by the Lord of Asuras, mighty yourself, and accompanied by an army. If you thus take me by force, then what can I do to you? The Rishi said, thus told the Asura Dhumralochana rushed towards her, and thereupon Ambika reduced him to ashes with a mere hive of the sound. Then the great army of Asuras became enraged and showered on Ambika sharp arrows, javelins, and axes. Then the lion vehicle of Devi, shaking its mane in anger, making it most terrific roar, fell on the army of Asuras. Some Asuras it slaughtered with the bow of its forepaw, others with its mouth, and other great Asuras by treading over with its hind legs. The lion with its claws tore out the hearts of some and severed heads with a blow of the paw, and it severed arms and heads from others, and shaking its mane drank the blood from the hearts of others. In a moment all that army was destroyed by that high-spirited, exceedingly enraged lion who bore the Devi. When Shumbha, The lord of Asuras heard that Asura Dhumralochana was slain by Devi and all his army was destroyed by the lion of Devi. He was infuriated. His lip quivered and it severed the arms and heads from others, and shaking its mane drank the blood from the hearts of others. In the moment, all that army was destroyed by that high spirited and exceedingly enraged lion who bore the Devi. When Shumbha, the lord of Asuras, heard that Asura Dhumralochana was slain by the Devi, all his army was destroyed by the lion of Devi, he was infuriated. His lip quivered, and he commanded the two mighty Asuras, Chanda and Munda. O Chanda, O Munda, go there with large forces and bring her here speedily. Drag her by her hair or binding her. But if you have any doubt doing that, then let the Asuras strike her in the fight with all their weapons. When that Shri is wounded and her lion stricken down, seize that Ambika, bind and bring her quickly. Here ends the 6th chapter of Slaying of Dhumralochana of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 7 Slaying of Chanda and Munda. The Rishi said, then at his command the Asuras, fully armed with Chanda and Munda at their head, marched in the fourfold array. They saw the Devi smiling gently seated upon the lion on a huge golden peak of the great mountain. On seeing her, some of them excited themselves and made an effort to capture her, and others approached her with their bows bent and swords drawn. Thereupon Ambika became terribly angry with those foes, and in her anger, her countenance then became dark as ink. Out from the face of her forehead, fierce with frown, issued suddenly Kali, the terrible countenance, armed with a sword and nose, bearing the strange skull decorated with garland of skull, clad in tiger skin, very appealing owing to her emaciated flesh, with gaping mouth, fearful, with her tongue rolling out, having deep sunk reddish eyes, filling the regions of the sky with her roars, and falling upon impetuously and slaughtering the great Asuras in that army, she devoured those hosts of foes of Devatas. Snatching the elephants with one hand, she flung them into her mouth together with their rare men and drivers and their warrior riders and bells, taking likewise into her mouth and cavalry with the horse and chariot with its driver. She grounded them most frightfully with her teeth. She seized one by the hair, another by the neck, one she crushed by the weight of the foot, another of her body, and she caught with her mouth the weapons and great arms shot by those Asuras and crunched them up with their teeth in her fury. She destroyed all that host of mighty and evil-natured Asuras, devoured some, and battled others. Some were killed with her sword, some were beaten with her skull-topped staff, and another Asuras met their death, being grounded with the edge of her teeth. On seeing all the host of Asuras laid low in moment, Chanda rushed against Kali, who was exceedingly terrible. The great Asura Chanda, with very terrible showers of arrows, and Munda, with discuses hurled in thousands, covered that terrible-eyed Devi. Those numerous discs disappearing into her mouth looked like numerous solar orbs disappearing into the midst of the cloud. Thereat Kali, who was roaring frightfully, those fearful teeth were gleaming within her dreadful mouth, laughed terribly with exceeding fury. Then the Devi, mounting upon her lion, rushed at Chanda, and seizing him by his hair, severed his head with her sword. Seeing Chanda laid low, Munda also rushed at her. She felled him on the ground, striking him with her sword in fury. Seeing the most valiant Chanda and Munda laid low, the remaining army became panicky and fled in all directions, and Kali, holding the heads of Chanda and Munda in her hands, approached Chandika and said her words mingled with very loud laughter. Here I have brought you the heads of Chanda and Munda as two great animal offerings in this sacrifice of battle. Shumbha and Nishumbha you shall yourself slay. The rishi said. Thereupon, seeing those asuras, Chanda and Munda, brought to her, the auspicious Chandika said to Kali these playful words: because you have brought me both Chanda and Munda, you, O Devi, shall be famed in the world by the name Chamunda. Here ends the seventh chapter, slaying of Chanda and Munda of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 8, Slaying of Raktabeeja. The Rishi said, after the Daitya Chanda was slain and Munda was laid low, many of the battalions were destroyed. The Lord of Asuras, powerful Shumbha, overcome by anger, commanded then mobilization of all the Daitya host. Now let the 86 Asuras, upraising their weapons with all their forces, and 84 Kumbhas, surrounded by their own forces, go out. Let 50 Asura families of Koti Viryas and 100 families of Dhaumaras go forth at my command. Let the Asuras, Kalakas, Daurhardas, and Mauryas and Kalakeyas hasten at my command and march forth readily for the battle. After issuing these orders, Shumbha, the lord of Asuras and ferocious ruler, went forth attended by thousands of big forces. Seeing that most terrible army coming, Chandika filled into space between earth and sky with the twang of her bowstring. Thereon her lion made an exceedingly loud roar. O king, and Ambika magnified those roars with the clanging of the bell. Kali, expanding her mouth wide and filling quarters with sound, overwhelmed the noises of her bowstring, lion, and bell by her terrific roars. On hearing that roar, enraged Asuras' battalion surrounded the lion, Devi, Chandika, and Kali on all four sides. At this moment, O king, in order to annihilate the enemies of Devas and for the well-being of the supreme Devas, there issued forth, endowed with exceeding vigor and strength, Shaktis from the bodies of Brahma, Shiva, Guha, Vishnu, Indra, and with the form of those Devas went to Chandika. Whatever was the form of each Deva, whatever his ornaments, vehicles, in that very form his Shakti advanced to fight with the Asuras. In a heavenly chariot drawn by swans advanced Brahma's Shakti carrying a rosary and kamandalu. She is called Brahmini. Maheshwari arrived seated on a bowl holding a fine trident, wearing bracelets of snake and adorned with the digit of moon. Ambika Kaumari in the form of Guha, holding a spear in hand, riding on a fine peacock, advanced to attack the Asuras. Likewise, Shakti of Vishnu came seated upon Garuda, holding a conch, club, bow, and sword in hand. The Shakti of Hari, who assumed the incomparable form of sacrificial boar, also advanced there in boar-like form. Narasimhi arrived there, assuming the body like that of Narasimha, bringing down the constellations by the toss of her mane. Likewise, thousand eyes Aindri, holding a thunderbolt in hand and riding the lord of elephants arrived just like Indra. Then Shiva, surrounded by those Shakti of Devas, said to Chandika, let Asuras be killed forthwith by you for my gratification. Thereupon, from the body of Devi issued forth the Shakti of Chandika, most terrific, exceedingly fierce, and yelling like 100 jackals. And that invincible Shakti told Shiva, go, my lord, as ambassador to the presence of Shumbha and Nishumbha. Tell the two Asuras, Shumbha and Nishumbha, and other Asuras assembled there for the battle. Let Indra obtain the three worlds, and let Devas enjoy sacrificial oblations. You go to the nether world if you wish to live, but if through pride of strength you are anxious for battle, come on then. Let my jackals be satisfied with your flesh, because that Devi appointed Shiva himself as an ambassador. Henceforth she became renowned in the world as Shivaduti. Those great Asuras, on their part, hearing the words of Devi communicated by Shiva, were filled with indignation and went where Katyayani stood. Then, in the very beginning, the enraged force of the Devas poured in front on the Devi showers of arrows, javelins, and spears, and lightly with the huge arrows shot from her full drawn bow, she clove those arrows, spears, darts, and axes hurled by them. Then in front of him, Shumbha stalked Kali, piercing the enemies to pieces with her spear and crushing them with her skull topped staff, and Brahmani, wherever she moved, she made enemies bereft of valor and prowess by sprinkling on them the water from her kamandalu. From very wrathful Maheshwari slew as with her trident, and Vaishnavi with her discus, and Kumari with her javelin, torn into pieces by thunderbolt which come down upon them, hurled by Aindrini. Daityas and Danavas fell on earth in 100 streams of blood flowing out of them, shattered by the bold formed goddess Varahi with blows of her snout, wounded in their chest by the point of her tusk, and torn by her discus. The asuras fell down. Narasimhi, Narasimhi, filling all the quarters and the sky with her roars, roamed about in the battle, devouring other great asuras torn by her claws. Demoralized by the violent laughter of Shivaduti, the asuras fell on the ground. She then devoured them who had fallen down. Seeing the enraged band of Matas crushing the great asuras thus by various means, the troops of our enemies of Devas took to their heels. Seeing the asuras harassed by the band of Matas and fleeting, the great Asura Raktabeeja strode forward to fight in wrath. Whenever from his body fell to the ground a drop of blood, that very moment rose up from the earth Asura of his stature. The great Asura fought with Indra's Shakti with club in his hand, and then Indrini also struck Raktabeeja with her thunderbolt. Blood flowed quickly and profusely from him who was wounded by the thunderbolt. From the blood rose up fresh combatants of his warmth and valor. Many drops of blood fell on from his body. So many persons came into being with his courage, strength, and valor. And those persons who sprung up from his blood fought with the same matas in a more dreadful manner, hurling the very formidable weapons. And again, when his head was wounded by the fall of her thunderbolt, his blood flowed, and therefrom were born persons in thousand. Vaishnavi struck him with her discus in the battle. Aindrini beat that lord of asuras with her club. The world was pervaded by thousands of great asuras who were of his stature and who rose up from the blood that flowed from him, were cloven by the discus of Vaishnavi. Kaumari struck the great asura Raktabeeja with her spear, Vairahi with her sword, Maheshwari with her trident, and Raktabeeja, the great asura, also filled with wrath, struck every one of the matas severely with his club. From the stream of blood which fell on the earth from him, when he received multiple wounds by the spears, darts, and other weapons, hundreds of asuras came into being, and those asuras were born from the blood of Raktabeeja, pervaded the whole world, and Devas got intensely alarmed at this. Seeing the Devas dejected, Chandika laughed and said to Kali, "O Chamunda, open your mouth wide. With this mouth quickly take in the drops of blood generated by the blow of my weapon." And also the great asuras born of the drop of blood of Raktabeeja roam about in the battlefield, devouring the great asuras that spring from him. So shall this Daitya with his blood emptied perish. As you go on devouring these other fierce asuras, you shall not be born. Having enjoyed thus, the Devi next smote him, Raktabeeja, with her dart. Then Kali drank Raktabeeja's blood in her mouth, and then and there
he struck Chandika with his club. The blow of his club caused her not even the slightest pain, and from his stricken body, whenever blood flowed copiously, there Chandika swallowed it with her mouth. The blow of his club caused her not even the slightest pain, and from his stricken body, whenever blood flowed copiously, there Chamunda swallowed it with her mouth. The Chamunda devoured those great asuras who sprang up from the flow of blood in her mouth and drank Raktabeeja's blood. Devi Kaushiki smote Raktabeeja with her dart, thunderbolts, swords, arrows, and spears when Chamunda went on drinking his blood. Stricken with multitude of weapons and bloodless, the great Asura Raktabeeja fell on the ground, O king. Thereupon the Devas attained great joy, O king. The band of Matas who sprang from them dance, being intoxicated with blood. Here ends the chapter 8 of slaying of Raktabeeja of Devi Mahatmya Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 9, the slaying of Nishumbha. The king Suratha said, "Wonderful that you have narrated to me the greatness of Devi's act in slaying Raktabeeja. I now wish to hear what Shumbha and Nishumbha did after Raktabeeja was killed." The rishi said, after Raktabeeja was slain and other asuras were killed in the fight, the asura Shumbha and Nishumbha gave away the unbounded wrath. Enraged on seeing his great army slaughtered, Nishumbha then rushed forward with chief forces of the asuras. In front of him, behind him, and on both sides of him, great asuras, enraged and biting their lips, advanced to slay the Devi. Shumbha also, mighty in valor, went forward, surrounded with his own troops, to slay Chandika. In this rage, then commenced severe combat between Devi on one side and on the other Shumbha Nishumbha, who, like two thunder clouds, rained a most temptatious shower of arrows on her. Chandika, with numerous arrows, quickly split the arrow shot by the two asuras and smote the two lords of asuras on their limbs with their mass of weapons. Nishumbha, grasping a sharp sword and a shining shield, struck the lion, the great carrier of Devi, on the head. When her carrier was struck, the Devi quickly cut Nishumbha's superb sword with a sharp edged arrow and also his shield, on which 8 moons were figured. When his shield was slit and his sword was too broken, the Asura hurled his spear, and that missile also, as it advanced towards her, was split into two by her discus. Then the Danava Nishumbha, swelling with wrath, seized the dart, and that also, as it came, the Devi powdered with the blow of her fist. Then, brandishing his club, he flung it against Chandika. Cleft by the trident of the Devi, it also turned into ashes. Then the Devi attacked the heroic Danava, advancing with battle axe in hand, and lay him low on the ground. When his brother Nishumbha, of terrific prowess, fell to the ground, Shumbha got infuriated in the extreme and strode forward to slay Ambika. Standing in his chariot and grasping excellent weapons in his long and incomparable 8 arms, he shone by pervading the entire sky. Seeing him approaching, the Devi blew her conch and made a twang of her bowstring, which was unbearable in extreme. And the Devi filled all directions with the ringing of her bell, which destroys the strength of all Daitya host. The lion filled the heaven, the earth, and 10 quarters of the sky with loud roars, which made the elephants give up their violent rut. Then Kali, springing up in the sky, came down and struck the earth with both her hands. By its noise, all the previous sounds were drowned. Shivaduti made a loud, ominous peal of laughter. The asuras were frightened by those noises, and Shumbha flew into an utmost range. As Ambika said, "O evil-natured one, stop, stop!" The devas stationed in the sky cheered her with the words, "Be victorious." The spear flaming most terribly and shining like a mass of fire when Shumbha, approaching, hurled was, as it was coming along, put out by a great fireband from the Devi. Intense intersphere between the three worlds was pervaded by Shumbha's lion-like roar, but the dreadful thunderclap of Devi smothered that, O king. The Devi split the arrow shot by Shumbha, and Shumbha also split the arrows discharged by her, each with her and his sharp arrows in the sky. Then Chandika became angry and smote him with a trident. Wounded thereafter, he fainted and fell to the ground. Then Nishumbha, regaining consciousness, seized his bow and the struck with arrows Devi and Kali and the lion. Then Danuj and the Danuja Lord, the son of Diti, putting forth a myriad arms, covered Chandika with myriad discuses. Then Bhagavati Durga, the destroyer of difficulties and afflictions, became angry and split those discuses and those arrows with her own arrows. Thereupon Nishumbha, surrounded by the Daitya host, swiftly seizing his club, rushed at Chandika to slay her. As he was just rushing at her, Chandika clove his club with her sharp-edged sword, and her and she took hold of a dart. As Nishumbha, the afflictor of Devas, was advancing with the dart in hand, Chandika pierced him in the heart with a swiftly hurled dart. From his Nishumbha's heart that was pierced by the dart issued forth another person of great strength and valor, exclaiming at the Devi, "Stop!" Then the Devi, laughing aloud, severed the head of him who issued forth with her sword. Thereupon he fell to the ground. The lion then devoured those asuras whose necks he had crushed with his fierce teeth, and Kali and Shivaduti devoured others. Some great asuras perished, being pierced through by the spear of Komari. Others were repulsed by sprinkling of purified water by incarnation of Brahmani. Others fell pierced by a trident wielded by Maheshwari. Some were powdered on the ground by blows from the snout of Varahi. Some Danavas were cut into pieces by discus of Vaishnavi, and others gained by thunderbolt discharged from the palm of Indrini. Some asuras perished themselves, some fled from the great battle, and others were devoured by Kali, Shivaduti, and lion. Here ends the 9th chapter of Slaying of Nishumbha of Devi Mahatmyam Markandeya Purana during the period Savarni the Manu. Chapter 10, Slaying of Shumbha. The Rishi said, seeing his brother Nishumbha slain, who was dear to him as his life, and his army being slaughtered, Shumbha angrily said, "O Durga, who are puffed up with pride of strength, don't show your pride here. Though you are exceedingly arrogantly superior, you resort to the strength of others. Fight." The Devi said, "I am all alone in the world here. Who else is there besides me? See, O Veil One, these goddesses who are but my own powers entering into my own self." Then all those Brahmani and the rest were absorbed in the body of Devi. Ambika alone then remained. The Devi said, "The numerous forms which are projected by my power here, those who have been withdrawn by me, and now I stand alone. Be steadfast in combat." The Rishi said, then began a dreadful battle between both of them, the Devi and Shumbha, while all the Devatas and Asuras looked on. With showers of arrows, with the sharp weapons and frightful missiles, both engaged in a combat that frightened all the worlds. Then the Lord of the Daityas broke the divine missiles which Ambika did discharged in hundreds with weapons that repulsed them. With fierce shout of hum, and like the Parameshwari playfully broke the excellent missiles that were discharged by him. Then the Asura covered the Devi with hundreds of arrows, and the Devi in wrath split his bow with her arrows. And when the bow was split, the Lord of Daityas took up his spear. With a discus, the Devi split that spear also. Next, the supreme monarch of Daityas, taking his sword, bright like the sun, and shining shield bearing the images of 100 moons, rushed at Devi at that moment. Just as he was rushing forward, Chandika split his sword with sharp arrows shot from her bow, as also his shield as bright as solar rays. With his steeds slain, with his bows broken, without a charioteer, the Daitya then grasped his terrible mace, being ready to kill Ambika. With sharp arrows, she split the mace of Shumbha, who was rushing at her. Even then, raising his fist, he rushed swiftly at her. The Daitya king brought his fist down on the heart of Devi, and the Devi also, with her palm, smote him on his chest. The Daitya king, wounded by the blow of her palm, fell on the earth, but immediately he rose up again. Seizing the Devi, he sprang up and mounted on high into the sky. There also Chandika, without any support, fought with him. Then the Daitya, Shumbha, and Chandika fought never like before with each other in the sky in a close contact, which brought surprise to the Siddhas and sages. Ambika then, after carrying on a close fight for a very long time with him, lifted him up, whirled him around, and flung him down to the earth. Flung thus, the evil natured Shumbha, reaching the earth and raising his fist, hastily rushed forward, desiring to kill Chandika. Seeing that the lord of Daitya folk, approaching the Devi, piercing him on his chest with the dart, threw him down on the earth. Pierced by the pointed dart of Devi, he fell lifeless on the ground, shaking the entire earth with its seas, islands, and mountains. When the evil-natured Asura was slain, the universe became happy, regained perfect peace, and the sky grew clear. Flaming potent clouds that were in evidence before became tranquil, and the rivers kept within their courses when Shumbha was stricken down there. When he had been slain, the minds of all the bands of Devatas became overjoyed, and the Gandharvas sang sweetly. Others sounded their instruments, and the bands of Apsaras danced. Likewise, favorably winds blew, the sun became very brilliant, sacred fires blazed peacefully, and the tranquil became the strange sound that had risen in different quarters. Here ends the 10th chapter called The Slaying of Nishumbha of Devi Mahatmya in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 11, Hymn to Narayani. The rishi said, when the great lord of Asura was slain there by the Devi, the Indra, and other devas led by Agni with their object fulfilled and their cheerful faces illuminating the quarters, praised the Devi Katyayani. The Deva said, O Devi, you who remove the sufferings of your suppliants, be gracious. O propitious, O mother of whole world, be gracious. O mother of universe, protect the universe. You are, O Devi, ruler of all that is moving and unmoving. You are the sole substratum of the world because you subsist in the form of earth. By you who exist in the shape of water, all this universe is gratified. O Devi of inviolable valor, you are the power of Vishnu. You have endless valor. You are the primordial Maya, which is the source of the universe. By you, all this universe has been thrown into an illusion. O Devi, if you become gracious, you will become the cause of final emancipation in the world. All lords are your aspects, O Devi. So are all women in the world, endowed with various attributes. By you alone, the mother, the world is fulfilled. What praise can be there for you, who are of nature of primary and secondary expression regarding objects worthy of praise? When you have been lauded as the embodiment of all beings, the Devi, O effluent one, the bestower of enjoyment and liberation, what words, however excellent, can praise you? Salutation to you, O Devi Narayani, O you who abide as intelligence in the hearts of all creatures and bestow enjoyments and liberation. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who, in the form of minutes, moments, and other divisions of time, bring about changes in things and thus have the power to destroy the universe. Salutation to you, O Narayani, O you who are good of all the good, O auspicious Devi, who accomplish every object the giver of refuge, O three-eyed Gauri. Salutation to you, O Narayani, you who have the power of creation, sustenance, and destruction, and are eternal. You are substratum and embodiment of three gunas. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are intent on saving the dejected and distressed that take refuge under you. O you Devi, who remove the sufferings of all. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who ride in the heavenly chariot yoked with swans and assume the form of Brahmani, O Devi, who sprinkle water with kusha grass. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who bear the trident, the moon, and the serpent, and ride the big bull, have the form of Maheshwari. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are attended by peacock and cock, and bear the great spear. O you who are sinless and take the form of Kaumari. Salutation to you, O Narayani, O you who behold the great weapons of conch, disc, club, and bow, and take the form of Vaishnavi. Be gracious. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who grasp a huge, formidable discus and uplift the earth with thy tusk, O auspicious Devi, who has a boar like form. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who, in the fierce form of lion man, put forth your efforts to slay the Daityas. O you who possess the benevolence of saving the three worlds. Salutation to you, O Narayani, you have a diadem and a great thunderbolt that are dazzling with thousand eyes and took away the life of Vratra, O Indrayani. Salutation to you, O Narayani, O you who in the form of Shivaduti slew the 100 host of Daitya, O you of terrible form and loud throat. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who have a face terrible with tusk and are adorned with a garland of heads, Chamunda, O slayer of Munda. Salutations be to you, O Narayani, O you who are good fortune, modesty, great wisdom, faith, nourishment, and svadha. O you who are immovable, O you great night and great illusion. Salutation be to you, O Narayani, O you who are intelligent and Saraswati. O best one, prosperity, consort of Vishnu, dark one, nature, and propitious. O queen of all, you who exist in O Queen of all, you who exist in the form of all and possesses every night, save us from error, O Devi. Salutation be to you, Devi Durga. May this benignant countenance of yours adorned with three eyes protect us from all fears. Salutation be to you, O Katyayani. Terrible with flames, exceedingly sharp destroyer of all the asuras, may your trident guard us from fear. Salutation be to you, O Bhadrakali. May your bell that fills the world with its ringing and destroys the prowess of Daityas guard us, O Devi, as a mother protects her children from all evils. May your sword, smeared with the mire like blood and the fat of asuras and gleaming with rays, be for our welfare, O Chandika, we bow to you. When satisfied, you destroy all illness, but when brought you frustrate all the longed for desires, no calamity befalls men who have sought you. Those who have sought you become verily a refuge of others. This slaughter that you, O Devi, multiplying your one form into many, have now brought on the great asuras who hate righteousness. O Ambika, which other goddess can do that work? Who is there except you in the sciences of the scriptures and in the Vedic sayings, the light, the lamp of discrimination? Still, you cause this universe to whirl about again and again with the dense darkness of the depths of attachment, where Rakshasas and the snakes of virulent poison are, where foes and host of robbers exist, where forest conflagrations occur, there and in the mid sea, where you stand and save the world. O Queen of Universe, you protect the universe. As the self of the universe, you support the universe. You are the goddess worthy to be adorned by the Lord of Universe. Those who bow in devotion to you themselves become the refuge of the universe. O Devi, be pleased and protect us always from the fear of foes as you have done just now by the slaughter of asuras, and quickly destroy the sins of all the worlds and great calamities which have sprung from maturing of the evil asuras. O Devi, you who remove the afflictions of the universe, be gracious to us who have bowed to you. O you, worthy of adoration by the dwellers of the three worlds, be a boon giver to the worlds. Devi said, O Devas, I am prepared to bestow a boon. Choose whatever boon you desire for your mind. For the welfare of the world, I shall grant it. The Devas said, O Queen of all, in this same manner you must destroy all our enemies and all the afflictions of the three worlds. The Devi said, when the 28th age has arrived during the period of Vishwasvata Manu, two other great Asura, Shumbha and Nishumbha, will be born. Then, born from the womb of Yashoda, in the home of cowherd Nanda, and dwelling on the Vindhya mountain, I shall destroy them both. Again and again, having reincarnated in a very terrible form on earth, I shall slay the Danavas who are descendants of Viprashiti. When I shall devour the fierce and great Asuras descended from Viprashiti, my teeth shall become red like the flower of pomegranate. Therefore, when devas in the heaven and men on the earth praise me, they shall always talk of me as the red-toothed one. And again, when the rain shall fall for a period of 100 years, propitiated by the Munis, I shall be born on the drought-ridden earth, but not womb begotten. Then I shall behold the Munis with 100 eyes, and so mankind shall glorify me as the 100-eyed. At the time, O Devas, I shall maintain the whole world with life-sustaining vegetables born out of my own cosmic body till rains set in. I shall be famed from the earth as Shakambari. At that very period, I shall slay the great Asura named Durgama. Thereby, I shall have the celebrated name of Durga Devi, and again assuming a terrible form on the mountain Himalaya, I shall destroy the Rakshasa for the protection of the Munis. Then all the Munis, bowing their bodies reverently, shall praise me, and thereby I shall have the celebrated name of Bhima Devi. When the Asura named Aruna shall work great havoc in these three worlds, having taken a collective bee form consisting of innumerable bees, I shall slay the great Asura for the good of the world. And then people shall laud me as Brahmari. Thus, whenever trouble arises due to advent of Danavas, I shall reincarnate and destroy the foes. Here ends the 11th chapter called Hymn to Narayani of Devi Mahatmyam in Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Chapter 12, Eulogy of Merits. The Devi said, and whoever with a concentrated mind shall pray to me constantly with these hymns, I shall without doubt put down every trouble of theirs. And those who shall laud the story of destruction of Madhu and Kaitabha, the slaughter of Shumbha likewise, and those who shall also listen with devotion to this sublime poem on my greatness on the 8th, 14th, and on the 9th days of fortnight with a concentrated mind, to them nothing wrong shall happen, or calamities that arise from wrongdoings, nor poverty, and never separation from beloved ones. He or she shall not fear from enemies, or from robbers or kings, or from weapon, fire, and flood. Hence, this poem of my greatness must be chanted by men of concentrated minds with devotion, for it is supreme course of well-being. May this poem of my glories quell all epidemic calamities, as also the threefold natural calamities. The place of my sanctuary, where this poem is duly chanted every day, I shall never forsake, and there my presence is certain. When sacrifice is offered during worship, in the fire ceremony, and at a great festival, all this poem on my acts must be chanted and heard. I will accept with love the sacrifice and worship that are made, and the fire offering that is offered likewise, whether they are done with due knowledge of sacrifice or not. During the autumnal season, when the great annual worship is performed, the man hearing this glorification of mine with devotion shall certainly through my grace be delivered without any doubt from all the troubles and be blessed with riches, grains, and children. Hearing this glorification and auspiciousness, appearance of mine and my feats of prowess in battles, a man becomes fearless. Enemies perish, welfare accrues, and the family rejoices for those who listen to this glorification of mine. Let one listen to this glorification of mine everywhere at a propitiatory ceremony on seeing a bad dream and when there is great evil influence of planets. By that evil effects subside as also the unfavorable influence of planets and the bad dream seen by men turns into good dream. It creates peacefulness in children possessed by the evil spirits, and it is the best promoter of friendship among men when splits occur in their union. It diminishes most effectively the power of all men of evil ways. Verily, demons, goblins, and auguries are destroyed by its mere chanting. This entire glorification of mind draws a devotee very near to me, and by means of finest cattle, argyas, and incense, and by perfumes and lamps, by feeding brahmanas, by oblations and sprinkling consecrated water, and by various other offerings and gifts, if one worships day and night in a year, the gratification which is done is attained by listening but once to this holy story of mine. The chanting and hearing of the story of my manifestations removes sins, grants perfect health, and protect one from evil spirits. And when my martial exploit in the form of slaughter of wicked daityas is listened to, men will have no fear of enemies, and the hymns uttered by you and those by the divine sages and those by Brahma bestow a pious mind. He who is lost on a lonesome spot in a forest, or is surrounded by forest fire, or who is surrounded by robbers in a desolate spot, or who is captured by enemies, or who is pursued by a lion or tiger, or by wild elephants in forest, or who under the orders of wrathful king is sentenced to death, or has been imprisoned, or who is tossed about in his boat by tempest in the vast sea, or who is in the most terrible battle under shower of weapons, or who is amidst all kinds of dreadful troubles, or who is afflicted with the pain, such man on remembering this story of mine is saved from his trade. Through my power, lions, etc., robbers and enemies flee from a distance from who remembers this story of mine. The rishi said, having spoke thus, the adorable Chandika, fierce in prowess, vanished on that very spot, even as the devas were gazing one. Their foes having been killed, all the devas were also delivered from fear. All of them resumed their own duties as before and participated in the share of sacrifices. When the exceedingly valorous Shumbha and Nishumbha, the most fierce foes of devas who brought ruins on the world, were unparalleled, who were unparalleled in prowess, had been slain by the Devi in battle, the remaining daityas went away to Patala. Thus, O King, the adorable Devi, although eternal, incarnating again and again, protects the world. By her, this universe is deluded, and it is she who creates this universe. And when entreated, she bestows supreme knowledge, and when propitiated, she bestows prosperity. By her, the Mahakali, who takes the form of the great destroyer at the end of the time, all this cosmic sphere is pervaded. She indeed takes the form of great destroyer at a proper time. She, the unborn, indeed becomes the creation at the time proper for recreation. She herself, the eternal being, sustains the beings at another time. In the times of prosperity, she is indeed the Lakshmi who bestows prosperity in the homes of men. In the times of misfortune, she herself becomes the goddess of misfortune and brings about ruin. When praised and worshipped with flowers, incense, and perfumes, she bestows wealth and sons and a mind bent on righteousness and prosperous life. Here ends the 12th chapter of Eulogy of merits of Devi Mahatmyam in the Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni Manu. Chapter 13, Bestowing the boons to Suratha and Vaishya. The rishi said, I have now narrated to you, O king, this sublime poem of the glory of Devi. The Devi is endowed with such mystic power, majestic power. By her, this world is upheld. Knowledge is similarly conferred by her, the elusive power of Bhagwan Vishnu. By her, you, this merchant, and another man of discrimination are being deluded, and others were deluded in the past and will be deluded in the future. O great king, take refuge in her, the supreme Ishwari. She indeed, when worshipped, bestows on men enjoyment, heaven, and final release. Markandeya said to his disciple Bhaguri, O great sage, King Suratha, who had become despondent consequent on his excessive attachment and deprivation of his kingdom, and the merchant, having heard this speech, prostrated before the illustrious rishi of severe penances and immediately repaired to perform austerities. Both king and the merchant, in order to obtain the vision of Amba, stationed themselves on a sand bank of the river and practiced penances, chanting the supreme Devi Sukta, hymn to Devi. Having made an earthen image of Devi on the sands of the river, they worshipped her with flowers, incense, fire, and liberation of water. Now abstaining from food, with their minds on her, and with concentration, they both offered sacrifices sprinkled with blood drawn from their own bodies. When they, with controlled minds, propitiated her thus for 3 years, Chandika, the upholder of the world, was well pleased and spoke to them in a visible form. Devi said, What you solicit, O king, and you, the delight of your family, receive all that from me. Well least I bestow those to both of you. Markandeya said. Then the king chose a kingdom imperishable even in another life, and in this life itself, his own kingdom, wherein the power of his enemies is destroyed by force. Then the wise merchant also, whose mind was full of dispassion for the world, chose the knowledge which removes attachment in the form of mine and I. Devi said, O king, after slaying your foes in a few days, you shall obtain your own kingdom, and it shall last with you there. And when you are dead, you shall gain another birth and shall be a Manu on earth by the name Savarni. And O the best of merchants, I grant you the boon which you have desired of me. Supreme knowledge shall be yours for your realization, for your self-realization. Markandeya said, having thus granted them both boons that were desired by them, Devi disappeared before them as they were extolling her with devotion. Having thus gained the boon from Devi, Suratha, the foremost Kshatriya, shall obtain a new birth through Surya and of his wife Savarna, and shall be the 8th Manu named Savarni. Here ends the 13th chapter called Bestowing the Boons of Suratha and Vaishya of Devi Mahatmya in the Markandeya Purana during the period of Savarni the Manu. Here ends the Devi Mahatmya of 700 mantras. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om